My name is Sarah. I'm 29, a financial analyst based in Fort Wayne, Indiana, finally living in the condo I worked for years to afford. Life felt steady, until the day my parents suddenly showed up at my door, bags in hand, begging to stay. They claimed they had lost their house, broke and desperate. I let them in, but suspicion immediately crept in. Their story just didn't add up. If they had just lost everything, why were they so calm? Then the truth came out. They had sold their house, handed my brother $950,000 to buy his dream home, and shamelessly thought they could just move straight into mine. And what happened after that was far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. If you were in my place, what would you do? Leave a comment below, and keep watching to see the truth unfold. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in my Fort Wayne condo, the kind where I could finally breathe after a long week of crunching numbers. I was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through my phone, when the doorbell rang, not once, but 3 times, sharp and insistent. I opened the door, and there stood my parents. 5 bags were piled at their feet, their faces a mix of exhaustion, and something else I couldn't quite place. "Joyce, we need to stay with you," my mom said, her voice low and almost trembling. "We lost our house. Bad investments. We have nowhere else to go." I froze. My parents, the ones who always seemed so put together, were standing there like lost travelers. "It's just temporary, sweetheart. We'll figure it out," my dad added. But his eyes darted away, avoiding mine. Something felt wrong, like a puzzle piece was missing. They'd never mentioned money troubles before. Why now? Why me? I let them in, mostly because they were my parents and I couldn't just shut the door. They dragged their bags inside, filling my small entryway. My mom hugged me, her grip too tight, and said, "You're such a good daughter, Joyce." My dad nodded, muttering about getting back on their feet, but their words felt rehearsed, like they'd practiced this moment. I offered them the guest room. "You can stay a few days while you sort things out," I said. My mom smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. My dad just said thanks and started unpacking like they were moving in for good. That night, I couldn't sleep. Their story didn't add up. Bad investments? They'd owned their house outright, no mortgage. How do you lose something like that overnight? I grabbed my phone and texted Scott Hayes, my friend from college who's now a lawyer in town. "Can you check something for me?" I wrote, "My parents say they lost their house. I need to know what's going on." Scott replied instantly, "Give me a day. I'll look into property records." The next morning, my parents acted like nothing was wrong. My mom bustled around my kitchen, making coffee and pancakes, chatting about old family vacations. My dad fiddled with a loose cabinet door saying, "This place could use a man's touch." It was warm, almost comforting, but it felt staged. I kept catching them exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking. "So, what's your plan?" I asked over breakfast, trying to sound casual. "You looking for a new place yet?" My mom's fork paused midair. "Oh, we're still figuring it out," she said quickly. My dad added, "Don't worry, we won't be a burden." But he didn't look. That raised another red flag. My brother, always their golden child, hadn't called me in months. Was he part of this? That afternoon I watched my parents closely. They seemed too comfortable, like they were settling in. My mom rearranged my living room pillows, saying, "This place feels like home." My dad sprawled on my couch, flipping through TV channels. I bit my tongue. But every instinct told me they weren't telling the whole truth. I didn't want to accuse them yet, not without proof. But the way they avoided my questions, the way their story felt like a script, made my stomach twist. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. Scott's call couldn't come soon enough. The next morning, I woke to the smell of bacon sizzling in my kitchen. My mom was at the stove, humming softly, flipping pancakes like we were back in my childhood home. "Good morning, Joyce," she said, her voice warm, almost too warm. "Thought I'd make breakfast to thank you." It was the kind of family scene I'd craved years ago, but now it felt hollow, like a performance meant to keep me off guard. I sat at the counter, watching my mom plate the food. "So any luck finding a new place?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She froze for a split second, then smiled. "We're working on it, honey. It's tough out there." My dad chimed in from the couch. "Yeah, real estate's a mess right now. We'll get there. His words were smooth, but he didn't look up. I nodded, fighting back the urge to press harder. Their answers were too vague, too practiced. As we ate, my mom steered the conversation to safe topics. Old neighbors, her garden club, anything but their plans. My dad mentioned my brother once, saying he was busy with his new venture. I raised an eyebrow. What venture? I asked. My mom shot my dad a quick glance, then said, "Oh, just some business idea. You know how he is." No, I didn't. My brother hadn't shared anything with me in years. Their dodge made my skin prickle. By afternoon, I felt like a stranger in my own home. My parents moved through my condo with an ease that didn't match their story of desperation. My mom reorganized my spice rack, saying, "This will make cooking easier for us." Us. My dad hung a family photo on my wall, one I hadn't seen in years, without asking. It was like they were claiming my space bit by bit. I kept my smile in place, but every time I asked about their next steps, they brushed me off. "Don't worry, Joyce," my mom said, patting my hand. "We're just grateful to be here." My dad nodded, adding, "We'll handle it soon." But soon felt like an empty promise. That evening, I slipped into my bedroom and locked the door. I needed space to think. Their warmth was suffocating, and their refusal to talk about their plans nagged at me. I texted Scott again. "Anything yet?" I typed, my fingers shaky. He called me back, his voice low. "Joyce, I checked the county records. Your parents sold their house last month. $950,000 cash deal. The buyer transferred the funds to an account tied to a property in Fort Wayne under your brother's name." My heart sank. "You're sure?" I asked. "Positive," Scott said. "I've got the deed transfer. They didn't lose their house. They sold it to buy him one." I hung up, staring at my phone. My parents had lied. They'd sold their home, handed my brother nearly $1 million, and now they were here acting like victims. Why did they think they could just move into my condo permanently? My chest tightened with a mix of anger and loneliness. I'd always known they favored my brother, but this was a new low. I couldn't confront them yet, not without more proof. I needed to know why they'd done it and what my brother was really up to. Scott promised to dig deeper, but I already felt the walls closing in. That weekend, I needed a break from my parents' act. My grandmother, Clara, called to say she was stopping by. She'd always been my rock, the one who saw through family nonsense. When she arrived, her silver hair tied back, she gave me a long hug and said, "You look tense, Joyce. What's going on?" I hesitated, but her steady gaze pulled the truth out of me. "My parents are staying here," I said. "They claim they lost their house. I don't buy it." Clara sat on my couch, her hands folded tightly. "Lost their house," she repeated, her voice sharp. "Joyce, they didn't lose anything. They sold their house last month. $950,000 straight to your brother." My jaw dropped. "What?" I managed, my voice barely a whisper. Clara's eyes narrowed. "They bought him a house in Fort Wayne. He said he needed it for some big startup idea, but it's that girlfriend of his pulling the strings." I leaned forward, my heart pounding. "His girlfriend?" Clara nodded. "Scarlett Stone. She's got him wrapped around her finger, promising some tech empire. Your parents fell for it. Sold their home to fund it. They think he's their golden ticket. Always have." My mind reeled. My brother had convinced them to hand over nearly $1 million for a startup he'd never run successfully. And Scarlett had orchestrated this. Why didn't they tell me? I asked, my voice shaking. Clara sighed, her face softening. "They knew you'd ask questions, Joyce. You're not like him. You've got a head on your shoulders, and they didn't want you poking holes in their plan." Her words hit like a punch. My parents hadn't just lied. They'd chosen my brother over me again. I'd spent years proving I could stand on my own, and they'd thrown away their future for him, then showed up at my door, expecting me to fix their mess. I stood, pacing the room, my hands clenched. "They're living here acting like victims," I said. "They're dodging every question about their plans." Clara's expression hardened. "They're not planning to leave, Joyce. They think they can stay here. Guilt you into it. I heard your dad bragging to a neighbor about how generous you are." My stomach twisted. Generous? They were using me. The betrayal stung deeper than I expected. Clara reached for my hand. You don't owe them anything, she said firmly. They made their choice. Now you make yours. I nodded, but my mind was racing. Scott had already confirmed the sale. And now Clara's story lined up perfectly. My parents had sold their home, handed my brother a fortune, and thought they could claim my condo as their backup plan. The pieces clicked together, and with them came a cold, sharp clarity. I wasn't going to let this slide. I thanked Clara, promising to keep her updated. After she left, I sat alone, staring at the family photo my dad had hung. It felt like a mockery now. My brother's smug face in that picture fueled my anger. They'd lied to my face, played the victim, and expected me to roll over. No more. I grabbed my phone and texted Scott. I need everything you have on that house sale. I'm confronting them tomorrow. His reply was instant. Got it. I'll have the documents ready. As I set my phone down, a plan formed in my mind. The next day, I was ready. I'd spent the night replaying Clara's words, my anger hardening into resolve. My parents were in the living room, my mom knitting on the couch, my dad flipping through a magazine. I stood in the doorway, clutching Scott's email with the deed transfer details. We need to talk, I said, my voice steady but cold. My mom looked up, her needles pausing. What's wrong, Joyce? She asked, her tone too sweet. My dad set his magazine down, his eyes narrowing. What's this about? I didn't sit. I held up my phone, showing the email. I know you sold your house, $950,000, all to buy my brother a new place in Fort Wayne. Care to explain? My mom's face paled, her knitting slipping to the floor. My dad leaned forward, his jaw tight. Who told you that? He demanded. I didn't flinch. Doesn't matter. I want the truth. Show me your bank records right now or I'm done with this. My mom's eyes widened. Joyce, calm down. It's not what you think. But her voice cracked, betraying her. My dad stood, his face reddening. You're accusing us? After we raised you? I stepped closer, my voice rising. You lied to me. You said you lost everything, but you gave it all to him. What? My mom reached for my arm, pleading. We were going to tell you, honey. It's complicated. I pulled away. No, you had your chance. Show me the records or you're out. My dad's hands clenched into fists. You don't get to talk to us like that, he growled. Before I could respond, he raised his hand and slapped me across the face. The sting burned, but the shock hit harder. I stumbled back, my hand on my cheek, staring at the man who'd once tucked me in at night. My mom gasped, covering her mouth, but she didn't move. How dare you? I whispered, my voice shaking with fury. You think you can hit me in my own home? The shouting must have carried because there was a knock at the door. My neighbor, Robert Clark, stood there, concern etched on his face. Everything okay, Joyce? He asked, glancing at my parents. I forced a tight smile. Just a family discussion, Mr. Clark. Thanks for checking. He nodded, hesitant, but didn't push further. I'm next door if you need me, he said, then left. I turned back to my parents, my resolve steeled. You have 30 minutes to pack and leave, I said, my voice low but firm. Or I'm calling the police. My mom burst into tears, dropping to the couch. Joyce, please don't do this. We're your parents. My dad's face twisted with anger. You ungrateful brat, he spat. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us. I didn't waver. You gave my brother everything. You lied to me, used me, and now you hit me. Get out. My mom sobbed louder, begging. We have nowhere to go. But I'd heard enough. Their tears, their anger. It was all a show. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed my phone, and stood by the counter watching the clock. 25 minutes, I said, my voice like ice. My dad glared, his fists still clenched, but he didn't move toward me again. My mom kept crying, muttering about family and loyalty, but her words felt empty. I'd given them a chance to come clean, and they'd chosen lies and violence. My cheeks still stung, a reminder of how far they'd fallen in my eyes. As the minutes ticked by, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Minutes later, the air in my condo was thick with tension. My parents hadn't moved an inch. My mom sat on the couch, her face buried in her hands. My dad stood by the window, arms crossed, glaring at me. 15 minutes left, I said, my voice flat, holding my phone. Pack your bags or I'm calling the police. My mom's head snapped up. You wouldn't dare, she whispered, her eyes wide. My dad snorted. She's bluffing. She's too soft for that. I wasn't bluffing. 10 minutes, I said, stepping toward the kitchen counter. My dad turned, his voice low and venomous. You'll regret this, Joyce. You think you can throw us out like trash. I met his gaze, unflinching. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. My mom stood, her hands trembling. Please, Joyce, we're family. Don't do this. Her voice cracked, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. I shook my head. You stopped being family when you lied to me and thought you could take my home. My dad took a step toward me, his fists clenched again, but I held up my phone. 5 minutes. Try anything and I'm dialing now. They didn't budge. My mom sank back onto the couch, muttering about how I'd broken her heart. My dad paced, cursing under his breath. I watched the clock tick down, my heart pounding, but my decision clear. When the 30 minutes were up, I dialed 911. I need officers at my address, I said calmly. My parents are trespassing in my condo and refusing to leave. The police arrived in under 10 minutes. 2 officers knocked firmly on my door. I let them in, explaining the situation while my parents stood frozen. They've been staying here claiming they lost their house, I said, handing over my lease agreement. I own this place. I've asked them to leave and they won't. The older officer, a tall man with a calm demeanor, glanced at the document, then at my parents. Is this true? He asked. My mom started crying again, louder this time. She's kicking us out. We have nowhere to go. My dad cut in, pointing at me. She's lying. This is our home too. The officer raised a hand, cutting him off. Ma'am, sir, I need to see your proof of residency. My dad's face reddened, but they had nothing. No lease, no deed, no claim. The officer turned to me. This is your property, Ms. Fisher. If you want them out, we'll enforce it. My dad exploded. You can't do this. She's our daughter. He took a step toward me, his voice rising. You'll pay for this, Joyce. You hear me? The younger officer stepped between us, his tone sharp. Sir, back off. Threaten her again and you're leaving in cuffs. My mom grabbed my dad's arm, pulling him back. Thomas, stop, she whispered. But my dad's eyes burned with rage, locked on mine. The officers didn't waver. You have 10 minutes to gather your belongings and leave, the older one said. We'll wait. My parents hesitated, then slowly started packing their bags. My mom moved like a ghost, stuffing clothes into her suitcase. My dad slammed drawers, tossing items haphazardly, his every move dripping with defiance. I stood by the door, arms crossed, watching as the life I'd known with them crumbled. When they finally dragged their bags to the entryway, my dad turned to me one last time. You're no daughter of mine, he spat. The words cut, but I didn't flinch. You made that clear when you chose my brother, I said, my voice steady. My mom reached out, her hand shaking. Joyce, please. I stepped back. We're done, I said. The finality of it settled in my chest. The officers escorted them out, their figures disappearing down the hallway. I closed the door and leaned against it, the silence deafening. My home was mine again, but the cost was a family I no longer recognized. A few weeks later, my condo felt like mine again. The silence was no longer heavy, replaced by a quiet peace. I'd blocked my parents' numbers. But word travels fast, and Clara, my grandmother, kept me in the loop. She called one evening. My parents had gone to live with my brother. 3 days in, he kicked them out, claiming they were disrupting his lifestyle. Clara said they'd argued nonstop. They ended up in a cheap motel, their pride shattered. I wasn't surprised. My brother's house, the one my parents had poured $950,000 into, was gone within months. Clara heard through a friend that Scarlett had convinced him to mortgage it for a risky stock investment. The market crashed, and his so-called startup burned through what was left. The bank foreclosed, leaving him with nothing but debt. Scarlett had vanished. Meanwhile, my parents started spreading lies around town, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd thrown them out heartlessly. Their words stung because they were tarnishing my name. I'd worked hard to build a life of respect here. I called Scott Hayes, my lawyer friend. "Can we sue for defamation?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "They're spreading provable lies about you. We've got a case." We filed the lawsuit the next week. Scott gathered statements from neighbors, including Robert Clark. The court ruled in my favor, ordering my parents to retract their statements and pay a small settlement. They didn't show up to the hearing. I didn't care about the money. It was about setting the record straight. My name was clear. Through it all, Clara was my anchor. I'd visit her on weekends. One afternoon, she looked at me over her mug and said, "You did what you had to, Joyce. Never feel guilty for protecting yourself." Her words settled deep. Looking back, I realized how much this ordeal had taught me. I'd always thought love meant giving everything, even at my own expense. But my parents' betrayal showed me that love without boundaries is just an invitation to be used. I learned to stand up for myself, to draw a line and hold it. My condo, my life, my peace, they were mine to protect. I wasn't responsible for fixing my parents' mistakes, and my brother's downfall was his own doing. I'm not saying it was easy. Cutting off my parents left a scar, a quiet ache, but it also freed me. I could breathe again. Clara's support, Scott's help, even Robert's quiet check-in. They showed me I wasn't alone. If I could go back, I'd make the same choices. I'd ask my questions, set my boundaries, and call the police when it came to it. Because at the end of the day, your home is more than walls. It's your sanctuary, your strength. No one, not even family, gets to take that away. So, I'll leave you with this. What would you do in my shoes when someone you love crosses a line? How do you protect what's yours?